Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Downey High School, or whomever is out here looking at Romeo and Juliet. Forgive me, I always have that post-it note over there, some notes for myself. We'll be using this version of the play. We'll be talking about just Act 5 in this video, and what a gory, bloody mess. And I mean that in the best way. So, who's to blame in Act 5? Well, you know me. I love looking at art. I think this is immensely provocative. You have perhaps County Paris, who Romeo followed through with the request and dragged his body over to Juliet. And then Romeo there himself slain. And then Juliet falls on her love after taking her own life. Absolutely gory scene. You might imagine this is the friar, and maybe some other characters, maybe the old men, the Montagues, and the Capulets. This is some beautiful art. Love the lighting, how it's cast here. This must be Lady Capulet, the mother, or it could be the nurse, to be honest, weeping at the, shall we say, the feet of these poor children. Forgive me if you're old enough. Oh, I really dug the art of this, and so I thought it kind of interesting to sort of pull this in. One of the reasons we teach Romeo and Juliet is how it informs other stories. And, if you go back to Sleeping Beauty, and if she's awakened with a kiss, you might argue there's some Sleeping Beauty references in there for sure, some similarities. And, who knows? All right, let's get into this. The example, this isn't maybe a quote you would use in your essay if you're going to blame a particular character. This happens to be Balthazar. But Balthazar, okay, fine, you could blame him. I think there's just enough there. He's the one who delivers the message to Romeo in Mantua. He says her body sleeps in Capel's monument. Here's that line break, but we keep typing in our regular essay. Oh, man, comma, fanboys by the Shakespeare himself. And her immortal part with angels lives. It's a beautiful statement. And then how do you cite, right? The play title, we don't say Shakespeare anymore. Act, scene, give it a space, and then line number or line numbers. As always, make sure you have that period at the end. A couple of the first possible characters you might want to blame are Romeo and Fate. Speaking of Romeo, Romeo dreams that his lady came and found him dead. Strange dream that gives a dead man leave to think and breathes such life with kisses in my lips. Oh, man. His life rests in her love and affection. It's so romantic, but he has not tempered that love like Friar Lawrence advised. So it's what does he say? Like fire and powder, when they kiss, they consume. And so it's really beautiful. But anyway, he's on the love crazy train. Balthazar, you can either blame Balthazar or Fate here. We were just talking about that in the example. He's the one that delivers the message and the news to Romeo that Juliet is dead. Incidentally, this would be high-level quoting. You could use this as the first news of Juliet and what's happening, rather than the friar getting a letter to Romeo first. So again, this could blame Friar because Balthazar, Romeo's servant, is able to get the news to Romeo faster, right? Friar could have solved this whole problem had he delivered his letter. Balthazar, if you want to blame him again, it says man in your, or servant, right? In your text on Act 5, Scene 1, he cannot stop Romeo. I do beseech you, have patience, sir. Again, you could argue, Romeo is not tempering his enthusiasm, his love for Juliet. And he says, well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight. Let's see for means. O mischief, thou art swift to enter in the thoughts of a desperate man. And so he's saying the mischief and what he's thinking about doing, right? I do remember an apothecary. And so solving the problem, an apothecary is kind of like an age-old term for a pharmacist who could sell you all kinds of drugs, right? Not just aspirin and antibiotics, but the bad stuff too. So Romeo figures that out. Romeo convinces the apothecary to give him a deadly poison. Some really beautiful language here. The apothecary tries to reject him. Such mortal drugs I have, but Mantua's law is death. And then Romeo talks about need and oppression starveth in thine eyes, contempt and beggary hangs upon thy back. The world is not thy friend, nor the world's law, nor the world affords no law to make thee rich. Then be not poor, but break it, the law, and take this, a whole bunch of his gold, right? I think it's 40 somethings that he pays for it. And then my poverty, but not my will consents. It's a really brilliant line there. And then Romeo, again, just the level of language here. I pay thy poverty and not thy will. So Romeo is convincing the apothecary to sell him deadly poison. There is thy gold. And most teachers would be mad at me if I didn't mention this line to you guys. The worst poison to men's soul, right? The pursuit of the almighty, well, in our day and age, the almighty dollar, right? Over maybe love and I don't know. But anyway, some people worship the gold, right? On to scene 2, Friar Lawrence's cell. This is where the friar learns he sent a Friar John to deliver the letter. And then Lawrence, unhappy fortune, by my brotherhood, this letter was not nice. In other words, he did not tell Friar John how important this letter was, but full of charge, full of direction, full of care, of dear import, obviously importance. And then neglecting it may do much danger. Oh, you think? Especially if you guys are watching this and you already saw the scene. Okay, so some good references to the letter that Friar does not manage to get to Romeo. Romeo gets to the tomb, like he's in a hurry. He rides a valiant steed to kill himself there. And when he stumbles in, Balthazar's still with him. He yells at Balthazar to stay and not tell on him, but gives him a letter to give to his parents. You know, the suicide letter. But anyway, Romeo runs into Paris, and Paris is like, I will not let you. I can't believe you're here. You're going to scorn at Juliet and the Capulet monument. And then he's like, get out of my way or I'll kill you. And guess what? Romeo kills Paris. And in faith, Paris says, lay me with Juliet. Oh, it's so gnarly. But Romeo killing Paris, that only makes the situation more risque, more problematic. It's just sin on sin on sin on sin, mistake on mistake on mistake, right? Oh, it's intense. Can you imagine if Paris pauses Romeo here and Romeo takes a breath? And then he retreats, and then, well, yeah, that's the if, right? So Romeo comes in, he sees Juliet and says, death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath hath had no power yet upon thy beauty. In other words, this dramatic irony, we know she's about to wake up, and he's looking at her and going, gosh, she looks alive. She looks alive. But again, he's convinced that he's got to, look at this, thou art not conquered. Beauty's ensign yet is crimson in thy lips and in thy cheeks. Oh, it's so romantic. Romeo talking to her, a dateless bargain to engrossing death. So his death sort of preempts or inspires Juliet's death as well. So if you want to blame Romeo, he obviously kills himself, and in so doing, he hastens Juliet's demise as well. Come bitter conduct, come unsavory guide, thou desperate pilot, now at once run on the dashing rocks, thy seasick weary bark. Here's to my love. That's like saying cheers, right? Or saluting her. O true apothecary, the drugs are quick, thus with a kiss. One last kiss before he dies. Readers or viewers, guys, you learn Friar is too late. So that's what these lines are. Balthazar is figuring out that the friar is coming, and then he figures out that he's too late by a full half an hour. So Friar is late based on what Balthazar says here. A full half an hour late. Friar is super nervous. We know that because he says, go with me into the vault. He's telling the slave, Balthazar the servant. And Balthazar is like, heck no, I'm not doing that. And then Friar gets in there. Juliet awakes and she says, oh, comfortable Friar, where is my lord? I do remember well, so she knows where she's at. And then I hear some noise. So this is where the friar, for lack of a better expression, he freaks out, right? He's in the Capel monument with all the dead, including Romeo, including Paris. And Juliet's now awake and hears noises. And he goes, oh, death, contagion, and unnatural sleep. a greater power than we can contradict. Thy husband in thy bosom there lies dead. Okay, so he tells her, but then he says, stay not to question, for the watch is coming. Oh, here's another good line too. Come, I'll dispose thee among a sisterhood of holy nuns. Oh, can you imagine if a nun, all this loss? Come, go, good Juliet, I dare no longer stay. So as he's leaving, she says, go, get thee hence, for I will not away. The friar abandons, leaves Juliet. So if you've been in my class for a while now, you know Juliet faces an overwhelming sort of snowball of abandonment. And is it any wonder? Well, she kisses him, no friendly drop, doth hang on them to make me die with restorative. Thy lips are warm, which means she knows he just did it. Ah, it's so terrible. And then there's some great lines. She grabs Romeo's dagger. So again, not a full sword, something smaller. And she refers to her body as its sheath. She says, this is thy sheath, there rust, and let me die. And so the sheath is what you put a sword or a dagger in, and then that's where it's going to stay and rust. Oh, it's so gnarly. So she kills herself. So again, you could blame Juliet for killing herself, of course. Of course. There's really not much more else to say. There are some lines where the friar says he's the greatest and able to do the least. In other words, he's able to tell you what happens, tell the prince what happens, Lord Capulet, Lady Capulet, but not Lady Montague. So if you were not paying attention, Lady Montague also dies. Oh, there's so much death at the end of this play. So on this page is the friar. Sorry, it's not in my screenshots, but the next page. So I believe it's 104. The friar does a good job of summarizing the play, really, this crazy plan. Lord Montague and Lord Cap, they have this amazing moment. Lord Cap is one of the first to say, "Oh, brother Montague, give me thy hand." And so he's the first one to take the leap and apologize. Montague says, "I will do one more." And he says, "I will raise her statue in pure gold." I got an image to show you guys in the next slide. And then Cap, "As rich shall Romeo's by his lady lie." So Romeo is buried in the Capel monument, in the Capulet tomb alongside Juliet. And then this is the charge for your essay, right? Go hence, we'll have more talk of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned and some punished. So in other words, you guys are doing the prince's job here, so to speak. All right, let me show you this cool thing that really exists. So Verona, Italy, that's the setting of our play. And there really is a place, and you can see the Italian spelling. Here's Juliet. I believe it's a bronze or bronze statue of Juliet. You'll notice her boobs are shiny. For lack of a better term, it's good luck to rubber boobs. And this is a real statue in Italy of Juliet. So perhaps something as tragic as this really did happen. Thanks, guys. Wish you all the best in writing your essays. Look forward to helping you reach your goals as we bring this school year to a close.